I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
My beauty.
my power,
My life. But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am
I am
tired,
tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good to see you this morning on this Thursday, May 1. Here we are on Free Speech TV nationwide and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Join us on Free Speech. Join us on our video stream. A whole new month and a whole new set of issues to talk about. Where do we start? Well, let's say that just proving once again how cold-hearted and uncaring they really are. Senate Republicans yesterday shot down a proposal to raise the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour, where it's been stuck since 2007, up to $10.10 an hour. Yes, Senate Republicans making $175,000 a year, or $85 an hour, refuse to allow the poorest of our workers to make $10.10 an hour or $21,000 a year. What bastards. Yes, indeed. Are the Clippers for sale? Well, Donald Sterling says no, but Adam Silver, NBA commissioner, says he wants to force Sterling to sell the Clippers. And Oprah Winfrey says she is interested in making a deal, teaming up with producer, film executive David Geffen and Silicon Valley's Larry Ellison to buy the team. Clippers owner Donald Sterling may have to sell after all. And finally, international outrage over that botched execution in Oklahoma. Governor Mary Fallin has ordered a complete investigation. But remember, she's the idiot that scheduled 2 back-to-back executions in the same night in the first place. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. We will talk about all of the above. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
Yeah, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Republicans shoot down an increase in the minimum wage in the Senate. Yep, senators who make $85 an hour don't want anybody else to make $10.10 an hour. What cold-hearted bastards. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? It is Thursday, May 1. So good to see you today. And thank you for joining us. What do you say? A whole new month, huh? A whole new set of issues to talk about. Well, a lot of the same old issues carrying over into May, but it's a new start. We like that. And certainly it's a new start of the day, and we thank you for starting this day here on the Bill Press Show. We are here in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., the center of the universe, of course. At least some people think we are. That some people think they are the center of the universe. For whatever it's worth, we're here in Washington, D.C., bringing you the news of the Capitol. Not only that, all the news around the country and around the globe, we've got it covered. We will tell you what's going on and invite you to tell us what you think about it all. You know how to do so. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Here with you on your local progressive talk radio station. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for supporting your local progressive talk radio station. You know how lucky you are if you've got one where you live. We're also here on Free Speech TV and appreciate those of you tuning in to that great independent TV network, which you can find on your satellite dish, on DirecTV or the Dish Network. And we thank those of you all around the globe, our good friends in France and Belarus and Saudi Arabia and Denmark and God knows where, Mexico, who tune in every day on our video stream at youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Well, our team is minus our leader this morning, Peter Ogburn. I don't know why he thinks he gets a vacation, but he decided.
I know.
He demanded that he was going to take one for a couple of days here, end of this week and into the beginning of next week. But that means that Lisa Murphy's got to fly the 747 all by herself. I think she's capable of doing that. Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to be here.
All ready to go?
Yep, all ready.
Nervous?
No, I'm okay. I wonder how the weather is in New Orleans this morning.
But yeah, man, I'm telling you, I hope it was better than it was in Washington yesterday. It was nothing but cold, hard, heavy, disgusting rain.
Torrential.
Yesterday. Oh, yeah, and cold. Oh, man, I hate that weather. Alicia Cruz is here on the phones, ready to take your calls. Don't forget, at 866-55-PRESS. And we won't let Cyprian get away. No, he's here, Cyprian Balding, a videographer. Cheering on the Nats last night and here this morning to keep us looking good on Free Speech TV and on the video stream. Well, you know, you don't expect senators necessarily to be up to date on all the local rappers, right? I mean, or the current rappers or whatever. And so it is true that Democratic Senator Barbara Boxer mistakenly referred to 50 Cent as a music group.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, as a rock band or whatever. But as Conan O'Brien pointed out last night, yeah, that's better than what Republicans say about him.
Yesterday, this is strange, Democratic Senator Barbara Boxer mistakenly called 50 Cent a singing group. Meanwhile, Republican senators called 50 Cent a fair hourly wage.
Yeah, they want to go from $7.25 back to 50 cents is what they want to do. All right. So we've got a lot to cover today with good people to help us do it. Congresswoman Gwen Moore will be joining us a little bit later. This hour, we'll be talking with George Zornick from The Nation magazine. Our favorite sports columnist for The Washington Post, Cindy Boren, will be here in studio with us. Certainly lots in the sports world to talk about. And we'll have reporters in from National Journal and Politico as well. And we'll get right to it. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Well, just a little abbreviated. I can't do it as well as Peter does every day. I just wanted to give it a little abbreviated Full Court Press. Just one little off-the-wall story before we start. And that is Jameis Winston, Florida State. You know him. Heisman Trophy winner, right? He is in trouble again with the law. This is the fourth time in 18 months. He has gotten in trouble with the law, of course. And by the way, he hasn't been charged in any of these cases. Not even the rape case, which he was involved in. Disgusting that they haven't followed through on that. Now, the latest is an infraction of a little different nature. Shoplifting. Yes, it seems that he has a great love for crab legs. He just doesn't like to pay for his crab legs. Yes, he went into a public store, went up to the deli, and he ordered $32.72 worth of crawfish and crab legs from the deli, picked them up at the deli, walked out without paying. Oops. Publix realized he hadn't paid. They also knew who he was. They called the police. The police went to his apartment, and Winston said he realized once he got home that he had not paid for them, but he didn't do anything about it.
Oh, he just forgot, I guess, walking out of the store. Is that what it is?
He just never got around to calling the store saying, hey, I forgot to pay, I'll be right over, or just driving over and saying, hey, I forgot to pay. The guy was busted. He was stealing the crab legs. What a...
Well, we all know crustaceans are very expensive, so...
Yeah.
They're very expensive. You can't really afford them.
What a bozo, at any rate. I think this guy could be trouble. What do you think? Maybe?
Probably.
Yeah. All right. We got it. That's our abbreviated full court press for today, and into the first big story of the day we wanted to cover. There is international outrage today directed against the state of Oklahoma over a really gruesome story. It happened night before last. You know, Governor Mary Fallin, she's the idiot who last fall, you may remember, I mean, I feel sorry for the people of Oklahoma. They don't deserve anybody this dumb or this incompetent. But last fall, she said, after the Defense Department said that all federal employees of the military, qualified for spousal benefits, married couples, whether they were straight couples or same-sex couples, they had to get spousal benefits. So Mary Fallin said, oh, no, we're not going to do that. Instead, we will deny the Oklahoma National Guard, we will deny benefits, spousal benefits, to all couples. Nobody will get any help at all because we don't want to help gay couples, so we don't want to help straight couples either. A few weeks later, she changed her mind about that order. But then she got in, remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about her again because she signed legislation prohibiting any city in Oklahoma from raising the minimum wage. So much for local control. She said she didn't want the minimum wage raised anywhere in the state of Oklahoma. So the state would prohibit any city from doing so. Well, the latest is she is such a fan of the death penalty that she wanted to do something nobody else has ever done, right? She wanted to beat Rick Perry at his own game. She wanted to beat George Bush at his own game. She scheduled 2 executions in the same night. Just get your popcorn and line up and watch the executions. Back to back, 2 hours apart. And what happened, of course, we mentioned this briefly yesterday. They botched the first one so bad, they ended up having to postpone the second one. Now, first, let's just start this conversation by saying these 2 guys, Clayton Lockett and Charles Warner, the crimes they committed were horrific, heinous crimes. They deserve the max punishment, no doubt about it. So I'm not here to defend them at all. Don't accuse me of that. The question is, what should be the maximum punishment in civilized society? Do we really, really think we still ought to be killing people? Do we really, really think the death penalty still makes sense? Do you really think that you can justify any form of the death penalty as anything other than cruel and unusual punishment? How can you deny that's exactly what it is, cruel and unusual punishment? Well, you know, over time, over centuries, governments have they've tried to evolve, okay, and move to a kinder and gentler form of killing people, right? We went from the guillotine, which they don't use anymore, to firing squads, to what else? To hangings, right? To the gas chamber, to the electric chair, all of which considered too harsh, to lethal injection. Well, now something weird has happened with the lethal injection, and that's one of the things that went wrong in Oklahoma, is the drug companies don't like the fact that they are, in fact, accomplices in these killings. And so many drug companies have just said, we don't want our drugs, we will not sell our drugs to states anymore to be used in executions. So state after state after state, this happened in Ohio not so long ago, they have to go out and they try to come up with a new cocktail of drugs that'll work to kill people. So they, in Oklahoma, for the first time, they used 3 drugs with this Clayton Lockett. He was the first one up. The first one is supposed to, it's kind of grim, but we got to know exactly what happened here to be able to talk about it. So Clayton Lockett is the first one up. First thing they do is they give him this drug, which is supposed to render him unconscious and unable to feel any pain. So they give him that drug, and 10 minutes later, the prison officials say, all right, he's out, man. He's out. So they start administering the second and the third drug. The second drug is to start paralyzing his organs, basically killing him. And the third drug, the purpose of that is to stop his heart. Okay? Reporter Graham Brewer from what's called News Oak or News OK, one of the witnesses there, described. So this guy, remember, he's supposed to be totally out, unable to feel anything. Graham Brewer.
He began convulsing, lifting his head and his chest off of the gurney, shaking, moving his head, even mumbling a few times. It was inaudible. The last word he did say was the word man.
Oh, man, suppose I heard there's another witness who said so. So the guy, he can feel the pain. He has a total agony. He's writhing, he's groaning, he's breathing heavily. He's trying to lift himself up off the gurney. The prison officials freak out. They lower the blinds so nobody can see what's going on. 43 minutes later, he dies of a heart attack. And the prison officials call the mayor, the governor, in a panic, and she delays the second execution. It's just a total botched operation. It was gruesome. It should never have happened. And again, it proves that even lethal injection is a cruel and unusual punishment. And by the way, what does it say when the drug companies have higher moral standards, refuse to be part of this? The drug companies have higher moral standards than the government. So let's face it. I mean, don't you agree? It's just time to get rid of it. Nobody talks about the death penalty as a deterrent against serious crime anymore because the murder rate has not gone down. Nobody talks about the death penalty anymore as anything other than pure retribution. Pure retribution. It is really eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It's sort of like to make people feel better because they committed serious crime, so we showed them, we became like them, and we killed somebody ourselves. That's the only reason behind it anymore. No matter what form it takes, it is just cruel and unusual punishment. It's against the 8th Amendment to the Constitution. And that's why, by the way, think about 141 countries. 141 countries, including all of the civilized countries of Western Europe. Every one of them, 141 countries, have banned the death penalty. 18 states in this country have banned the death penalty. And yet it continues in states like Oklahoma, and because of this Roberts Court, it continues nationwide. I mean, what happens in Oklahoma? Sure, Governor Fallon has asked for an investigation. She's delayed the second execution, everything. We don't need an investigation to know the death penalty is wrong in any form whatsoever. What do you think about this? 866-55-PRESS. Let's talk about it here Thursday morning. I got to say one other thing finally. You know, as a Catholic, the Catholic Church, the official position of the Catholic Church is against the death penalty. Do you ever hear the Catholic bishops talk about the death penalty? They're too damn busy talking about denying American women the opportunity to have contraception as part of their healthcare plan. The Catholic bishops are too busy talking about abortion. They're too busy denying two people who love each other, who happen to be of the same sex, the ability to marry and to spend all their days together as a married couple. They're too busy talking about those issues than talking about the death penalty. If the Catholic bishops spend as much time fighting contraception as they fighting the death penalty as they do fighting contraception, maybe what happened in Oklahoma would not have happened. So about time the Catholic Church got on the right issue here. And I think it's about time as Americans we rallied together and said, come on, let's join the community of civilized nations on this planet who have banned the death penalty. Long past due, and Oklahoma proves it. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they had malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
26 minutes after the hour. Talk about the furor, the uproar over that botched execution in Oklahoma, which ought to tell us something again about the death penalty. By the way, that execution came one day after the latest report on the death penalty that 1 out of 25 people on death row in the United States actually did not commit the crimes that landed them on death row. But of course, once you put them to death and you discover that, it's a little too late maybe to go back and correct your mistake. Jay Carney, this issue came up yesterday at our press briefing. President Obama, who supports the death penalty, a White House still expressing its outrage about what happened.
We have a fundamental standard in this country that even when the death penalty is justified, it must be carried out humanely. And I think everyone would recognize that this case fell short of that standard.
Sure did. Paul is up in Benton, Pennsylvania. Hello, Paul. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. One of the things with the death penalty is it seems that only people that don't have financial means to hire dream team lawyers are the ones that get sentenced to death.
Absolutely.
If you're a person of means, you don't have to worry about the death penalty. And this governor, she should actually really be removed from office because she violated a court order to stay that execution, and then they threatened the judges with impeachment.
Yeah, that's it.
They didn't
yeah, absolutely, Paul. That's a backstory, and I'm glad you pointed it out, is that the one court had said, no, this can't go forward. The Supreme Court said this can't go forward. The governor overruled the court and said, no, we're going to have these executions. I'm going to show how tough I am. I'm going to have 2 of them the same night, back to back. And then people threatened the Supreme Court with tossing them off the court in a special election. So the court reversed itself and allowed the executions to go forward. Yeah, she ought to be removed from office, and we ought to get rid of the death penalty. More calls coming up, 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like, go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, your next venture.
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
Talking about the uproar over the death penalty again, front and center, because of that badly botched execution. Night before last in Oklahoma, Governor Mary Fallin yesterday, she held a news conference right away, insisting the death penalty is still the way to go.
I believe the legal process worked. I believe the death penalty is an appropriate response and punishment to those who commit heinous crimes.
Yeah, why is it, Mary Fallin? Why is it? How can you justify it as anything other than cruel and unusual punishment? Of course, she can't. But she says, so I'm so merciful that I've delayed the next execution for 2 weeks.
To allow for Commissioner Thompson's review process to be completed before any further executions. Last night I also issued an executive order staying the execution of Charles Warner until May 13th.
Yeah. Somebody ought to sit Mary Fallin down and say, okay, how do you explain the fact, Mary Fallin, that this is supposed to be, according to the Constitution, everything applies equally, right, according to the Constitution. How can you explain the fact that in some cities some states you get the death penalty, other states you won't? As Paul just pointed out, you got a lot of money, you're unlikely to get it. You don't have a lot of money, you're probably going to get it. Okay? How do you explain the fact, Mary Fallin, that blacks are much more likely to get the death penalty than white people? How to explain the fact in your state, Mary Fallon, that 40% of the people on death row are black, while the population of Oklahoma, the African-American population, is 4%? Really, Mary Fallon? How can you explain that? How can you explain the fact, Mary Fallon, that in state after state, they've discovered, because of DNA testing, that dozens, hundreds probably, of people, I've lost track of this, there's this one great project at the University of Illinois that's done this, hundreds of people that have been killed innocently, on death row, executed by the state, and it turns out, oops, they didn't commit the crimes after all. And so how can we continue to get behind a punishment, no matter how you do it, like the death penalty? And why have 141 countries come to this conclusion, and yet we in the United States cannot? You know what it is? I saw this quote yesterday. I think this says it really wraps it up. It's the author of a book, Austin Surratt is his name, author of a book called Gruesome Spectacles, Botched Executions, and America's Death Penalty. And he concludes, at the end of the day, how we punish says as much about us as about those we punish. Pat's calling from Liberty, Missouri. Hi, Pat.
Good morning, Bill.
Good morning. Yeah, what's up?
I don't normally disagree with you, and I'm not going to say whether the death penalty is right or wrong, but having a daughter that was stabbed 26 times, I'm tired of everybody worrying about the suffering of these people.
I'm not worrying about the suffering of these people. I'm worried about who we are, Pat.
All of you were like, oh, this poor man suffered. Well, my daughter suffered.
I know she suffered, and I'm sorry that she suffered. But, you know, killing him is not going to end her suffering or not end your suffering.
About whether the death penalty is right or wrong.
No, it is.
Everybody.
No, it is, Pat. It is no, Pat. It is about that. You can't. I mean, I'm very, very sorry, but you can't duck it that way. It is. We have a responsibility for our actions as to whether what we do is right or wrong.
I'm not talking about that. Just quit talking about how he suffered for 26 minutes.
Pat, we're talking about that as just one example of how wrong the death penalty is. You cannot escape the question: is what we are doing right or wrong? It's not about him. It's about us. That's what the death penalty is all about. I'm sorry, John, I'm sorry for your experience and for your daughter, but you know there are many families who've come forward and who've come to that conclusion. Look, what happened to my son, to my daughter, my wife, my husband, my father, my family member, my loved one, or whatever, was horrific. And I hate the person who did it. But I'm not going to lower myself to say the response in return should be to commit murder, in effect, and do it under the name of the state and then try to justify it as a morally right or you know what it is? It's just pure. The reason we still have it in this country, it's just pure politics. Let's face it. It's just pure politics. It's conservatives thinking they're tough by saying, damn it, we're the state and we've got the right to kill. John's calling from Highbridge, New Jersey. Hello, John.
Good morning to you, Bill.
Hi.
I'm sorry for Pat's loss, but that's a perfect example of what's going to happen with this case. They'll make it anecdotal about this horrible person, and who cares about what this guy did? That's all they're going to talk about. And no one will mention, for example, the L.A. Times article on the 29th, where 4% of all defendants sentenced to death are likely innocent.
Yeah.
But the bloodlust will follow this story, and they will leave out that 4% that are innocent. And those are the ones fortunate enough to have DNA evidence available.
Remember I think it was Governor Ryan who got in trouble in Illinois, got in trouble for some other stuff. But he's a Republican governor. He's the one who ended the death penalty in Illinois because he discovered that there were so many people on death row through this death penalty project. It's called at the university there, that they discovered there's so many people on death row who had not committed the crimes they were on death row for through DNA testing.
Well, can Barack Obama do the same thing nationally?
You know, I don't think he can. I don't think he would have the authority to, because it's a state-by-state decision, unless the Supreme Court does it. The Congress could do it. The Supreme Court could do it. I don't think, John, the president would have that executive authority. But 18 governors have, or 18 state legislatures have, which is a good sign. But you're absolutely right. All the other excuses for the death penalty, all the other defenses have gone away, and the only one left, as you point out, John, is retribution. Right? To say, okay, we feel better. We feel better because it's so Old Testament. It's eye for eye, tooth to tooth. That's all it is. A lot of legal scholars weighed in yesterday on this as well. And just to wrap up with Deborah Danow, who is with the Fordham Law School, points out again, get back. Remember, the Constitution denies any cruel or unusual punishment. Just think again about what happened in Oklahoma that night. You can't deny that was a cruel and unusual punishment. That was torture. Here is the Professor Danow from Fordham Law.
The Eighth Amendment is the critical doctrine that comes up in these kinds of cases. It's a cruel and unusual punishment clause. And the question, of course, is, did the inmate suffer a cruel and unusual punishment?
I think we know the answer to that. Yes, George Zornick from The Nation magazine joins us every Thursday morning. Or at least we have someone from The Nation magazine. So we'll take a quick break. You send us your comments on this Oklahoma case and what ought to happen to the death penalty at 866, on Twitter at BP Show or Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. And by the way, just one final point. I just read the latest book by retired Justice John Paul Stevens called 6 Amendments. He proposes 6 different amendments to 6 different parts of the Constitution based on his experience on the Supreme Court. And he's got a great chapter on the death penalty and how we ought to amend the 8th Amendment to mention specifically and to prohibit specifically the death penalty in this country. One strong voice out for what we're talking about this morning. His book, again, is called 6 Amendments. It's only about 150 pages long. It's a quick read, but really good, strong stuff. Back with George Zornick from The Nation.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. There was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, now 13 minutes before the top of the hour, at the top of the next hour, Cindy Boren from the Washington Post here on the sports world. Wow, there's so much happening, good and bad, in the sports world these days. Right now, we take a look at the news of the day. You've heard me say my liberal Bible is The Nation magazine. Was just reading the latest edition before I came over to do the show this morning. George Zornick is Washington editor of The Nation, joining us on our news line this morning. Hey, George, how are you?
Hey, Bill, great.
So the Republican senators yesterday, here's just a basic proposal. Republicans did this with Democratic help, of course, under George W. Bush to raise the minimum wage. They raised it then to $7.25. Now to raise it from $7.25 to $10.10. Republicans just can't seem to go along with it, huh?
No, they can't at all, which of course is a trend that they don't like. They suddenly don't like things that they used to like when Bush was president. Yeah, it's
how about it?
It's a very basic proposal. I mean, if wages rose, as they should have since the 60s, it would already be above 10.10. It's a pretty basic thing. And this is obviously a worse economy than what existed when it was raised under Bush. So it's a pretty straightforward proposal, but of course it's in the GOP Bible that you can't give Obama something he wants, particularly in a midterm election year.
Right. They needed 60 votes even to start debate, and they couldn't round up enough Republican votes. Only one Republican, Bob Corker from Tennessee, voted to open debate on the minimum wage. Here's what I don't understand, George. Who are Republicans appealing to by refusing to raise the minimum wage? They really think this is a good political issue to run on?
It's kind of surprising. No, certainly. In fact, some of the states with the highest number of people who would benefit from a minimum wage hike are red states. They're represented by Republican senators.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there are people working on the minimum wage in red states, believe it or not, right?
Quite a bit of them.
Yeah.
Down south, but, they're listening to, as always, the donor class. There's big businesses, and the National Restaurant Association is very powerful and a lot of money. So in some ways, they're listening to that. But I think that at heart, it's really about just denying Obama and the Democrats an issue that they can go back to voters and say, no, we did this, heading into the midterm election.
We stood up to Obama or something. On another issue, and I know you've written about this, the Supreme Court handed the Obama administration a pretty big victory this week. I would say handed all of us Americans a pretty big victory in terms of clean air with its decision upholding the EPA's rules on coal-burning power plants.
Yeah, it's a really important ruling. Basically, the Supreme Court held that the EPA can regulate cross-border pollution so that they can enforce rules in one state that affect a lot of neighboring states. If a coal plant is firing all this stuff and it spreads across the southwest United States, that the EPA can do that. So it's not just about coal, but it's about the fact that the EPA is allowed to do this. So with these more important greenhouse gas regulations coming down the pike, the fact that the Supreme Court has at least tentatively said, EPA has the power to do these things is a very helpful thing.
And so this impacts existing power plants, but it does, I guess, build a strong foundation for their rules about new power plants, which are due out, I think, in June, aren't they?
Right, exactly. And not only that, but I think it's one of the many things that will kind of, I think, turn industry away from coal power, because they're going to look at the balance sheet now and say it's going to be more expensive for us to run these plants. Is it better for us to do natural gas, maybe in a more optimistic way, solar or wind or things like that? But coal is just quickly becoming a feasible way to produce power.
Right. Just as a tangent, we received a letter yesterday at home. I don't know whether you have, where you live here in Washington, giving us the option. This is from Pepco, right? Our local utility, giving us the option of having all of our power come from solar and wind, total clean energy, and all we have to do is fill out a form and send that in. And now we have solar panels on our roof here in Washington, so most of our power comes from our roof, right? But to the extent that we need any supplemental power from Pepco, I thought this is great. I don't know how many utilities are doing this. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more common. I didn't get that letter, but I'll have to check the mailbox. But yeah, I mean,
yeah,
at some point it's just going to be cheaper to do that. And it's sad, but sure, it's the way the business way world. They're not going to think about the long-term impacts. But at the point we get past the tipping point where it's cheaper for them to produce this kind of power, they'll do it.
Yeah,
they'll do it.
So
in this
case, it doesn't cost us anything. They don't have to send any technicians to install any new equipment or whatever. We just sign this form, and they make the deal then with whatever this clean energy company is that only is providing electricity, that's been produced from wind or solar. And it seems to me the more people that sign up to do that, the more demand there will be for wind and solar. And as you point out, the more then economically beneficial that form of energy becomes, and the less likely they're going to build more coal power plants.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's actually possible that no more new coal power plants will be built in the United States going forward if these rules go through. If people look at the Supreme Court thing, and if the greenhouse gas things go through, people will just say, well, it doesn't make sense to build a big dirty coal plant. We'll go a different route.
All right. So we can take some comfort in that good news. We hear such little good news out of the Supreme Court, right?
And a 6-2 vote, too. I mean, yeah,
right. 6-2 vote. And, of course, Antonin Scalia and Clarence Thomas said this was a Marxist. This was a Marxist move on the part of the John Roberts Court. Go figure. Hey, George, great to join you this morning. Thanks so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
Say hello to your roommate.
I will do that.
All right. George Zornick with The Nation, thenation.com.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
This is the Bill Press Show.
At the top of the next hour, Cindy Boren from the Washington Post, sports blogger, here to talk about all the big news in sports lately. Some good, some bad. Also be joined by energy reporter Erica Martinson from Politico. Talk more about that EPA ruling. And yes, Senate Republicans yesterday filibustered the minimum wage and managed to block moving forward to a full debate and a floor vote on the minimum wage. The final vote was 54-42. Only one Republican, Bob Corker from Tennessee, was willing to even allow floor debate. That's how bad this is. Most Republicans wouldn't even vote to allow floor debate on raising the minimum wage. Shame on them.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good to see you this morning on this Thursday, May 1. Here we are on Free Speech TV nationwide and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. Join us on Free Speech. Join us on our video stream. A whole new month and a whole new set of issues to talk about. Where do we start? Well, let's say that just proving once again how cold-hearted and uncaring they really are. Senate Republicans yesterday shot down a proposal to raise the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour, where it's been stuck since 2007, up to $10.10 an hour. Yes, Senate Republicans making $175,000 a year, or $85 an hour, refuse to allow the poorest of our workers to make $10.10 an hour, or $21,000 a year. What bastards. Yes, indeed. Are the Clippers for sale? Well, Donald Sterling says no, but Adam Silver, NBA commissioner, says he wants to force Sterling to sell the Clippers. And Oprah Winfrey says she is interested in making a deal, teaming up with producer, film executive David Geffen and Silicon Valley's Larry Ellison to buy the team. Clippers owner Donald Sterling may have to sell after all. And finally, international outrage over that botched execution in Oklahoma. Governor Mary Fallon has ordered a complete investigation. But remember, she's the idiot that scheduled 2 back-to-back executions in the same night in the first place. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS. We will talk about all of the above. Good to have you with us.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university?
And, people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Raise the minimum wage. Republican senators say, hell no, we make $85 an hour. Why should anybody else make $10.10 an hour? Cold-hearted bastards. Hey, good morning, everybody. What do you say? Not that I feel strongly about this. It is the Bill Press Show, Thursday, May 1. So good to see you today. Thank you for joining us on your local progressive talk radio station all across this great land of ours. Thank you for joining us on Free Speech TV, anywhere in this country and anywhere on the planet. Thank you for joining us on our video stream. How about it? How are we looking in Finland today? I think, pretty good, huh? We're dressed pretty well for Finland. Our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, and in studio with us to kick off this hour, one of our favorites and a great sports blogger for the Washington Post, Cindy Boren. Hello, Cindy. How are you?
Hi, Bill. I'm fine. You need a parka or something if you're in
Oh,
Finland.
if I'm in Finland, yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm a little nervous today because we got to talk sports without Peter Ogburn.
I know. But
yeah.
Fortunately, we have a lot of sort of politics and other things about sports that I think are right up your alley.
There's plenty of sports talk that I think I could handle this morning.
I think so.
Peter is off in New Orleans for the Jazz Fest down there.
Yeah, he's lying in a gutter somewhere on the French Quarter.
That's right. I think so. When he goes to New Orleans, yeah. So that leaves Elisa Murphy in charge here.
Hey, good morning.
In her capable hands we are this morning. Just don't screw it up, Elisa.
I'm trying.
Thank you. And Alicia Cruz there somewhere standing by to take your phone calls at 866-55-PRESS. And Cyprian Balding, he's on the job, on the cameras, on the lights, with our videographer, Cyprian Balding. We thank you all for being here. So, of course, we're going to talk about Donald Sterling. But yesterday I thought was interesting, Cindy, that Leader Harry Reid tried to make a connection from the West Coast to the East Coast. So here he is on the floor of the Senate yesterday, Leader Reid.
Commissioner Silver and the NBA leadership have set the standard for how professional sports organizations should act in the face of racism. I wonder today, Madam President, how the leadership of the National Football League, the NFL, that money-making machine, I wonder if they've taken notice of the NBA's decisive action. How long will the NFL continue to do nothing, zero, as one of its teams bears a name that inflicts so much pain on Native Americans?
So if the NBA can act so fast, why can't the NFL?
Well, it was a great speech. It was interesting to see him make that connection. If they want to hurt the NFL, go after that antitrust exemption. Call them up there. Do something about it. Don't just talk about it.
But I don't think one necessarily leads to the other. Do you?
I don't think so. No.
But it's just interesting. But you certainly have to say that Adam Silver acted with alacrity and with backbone, huh?
He did. He did everything he could do under this. He managed to do it in a really, really agile way, very nimble way. He didn't really come down on the owners who enabled this guy for over 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't come down on his predecessor, David Stern, for enabling him for 30 years. He kicked it right back to the owner's lap. It's now up to them to do something about this. The players have to feel that he's certainly, someone was saying he's the players' commissioner now. Well, good luck with that when the next collective bargaining agreement comes around, because he's going to have to be the owner's commissioner then. And, I don't necessarily think that there's this great kumbaya moment here, but that will last. But, he did the right thing. And he was, what I loved about him? He spoke so forcefully. He acted so quickly. And he took questions from reporters. He stood there and answered questions.
Yeah.
And you don't often see people do
that. So Cindy Boren here with us the first half of the hour. Congresswoman Gwen Moore joins us in the next hour, and we'll also be joined by reporters from Politico and National Journal. Get right to it with Cindy, but first,
this is the
abbreviated full court press here. But just one story I want to mention, because this is something you don't hear about on the East Coast so much, at least in our part of the East Coast. You hear about it like in Florida. Sinkholes. The latest sinkhole hit last night in Baltimore.
Yes.
Yeah, in Baltimore, it was a block-long sinkhole opened up in northeast Baltimore, next to some railroad tracks. A block of row houses has been evacuated, and they said, in fact, Alicia Cruz, who lives up in Baltimore, was saying that there were like about a half a dozen cars that ended up in this
The photos
sinkhole.
are frightening. I was looking at them on Twitter last night, and it was just absolutely frightening.
Yeah. So I guess,
I don't know. Maybe it's related to the
Just
stuff we're taking out of the earth or something.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Also, a couple of years ago, or maybe we had this earthquake in Washington.
Yeah.
So we're not as safe as we thought around here,
No, we aren't.
And I remember tornadoes before tornadoes started hitting this area, too. But
Really? See, I thought they'd always been.
when I first came here,
Really?
there was no, at least, and that was only in 1996, but I never heard about tornadoes, and then suddenly, they've got it. So you never know. So sinkholes, beware. Yes, indeed. Now, let's get to... so by the way, were you surprised by Donald Sterling's comments?
No. For 30 years, he's, certainly for people who have sort of followed the news out of the West Coast, it's been reported. It's been reported by ESPN over the years. It's been reported by the LA Times over the years. People have columnized about it. When I was at the Daily News in New York, we wrote about it. He's had a pattern of incidents of sexual harassment, housing discrimination. I mean, that's well known. He settled with the Justice Department for that. There have also been reports about things that he would say to some of his black players. He usually, he has a fairly decent record of hiring black head coaches.
Right.
But I think two things doomed him this time. One was the fact that he's now got a winning team. He's got a really good team. For 30 years, everyone just looked at him and he was an embarrassment, and it was easy to ignore him because he never spent any money on players. They never won anything, and it was just, whoever they drafted couldn't wait to get out of there.
Yeah.
And the other problem is, now what happens on the West Coast is news everywhere, and you just can't, you can't underestimate the impact of that. Yeah, it was a private conversation. On the other hand, the bigger issue, and a lot of people have said that to me, what about his First Amendment rights? Well, you also don't have the right to have a hostile work environment. You can't have that. And you don't have a right to own an NBA team.
Well, you have a right to say anything you want, but there are still consequences for some things you say. And I guess here's a question. Adam Silver, I really admire him. I think this was his first test, and he passed it with flying colors. He worked with the players, and what the punishment should be. As you said earlier, he went as far as he could go. Can he go so far as to force Donald Sterling to sell the team?
He can't. The owners can. It has to be a vote of the
owners. Now, how is that? Because you talk about your rights. As a businessman, if I have a business, I own a business, how can anybody force me to sell my business?
You can't because, it's because it's a club of owners, ownership.
So there's a rule. There are rules in the club. Is that it?
Yeah, pretty much. And if this guy's an embarrassment, they want him out. If the other owners feel that they can no longer tolerate his behavior, they can force him out. They can force him to sell. They can vote. Do
you think he's got the votes? Silver's got the votes?
The Sacramento Kings owner mentioned somewhere on TV yesterday thought the vote would be 29-0.
Whoa.
Yeah. And you knew he was in trouble on Sunday when Michael Jordan, who usually doesn't get involved in any of this, he's always above anything controversial. In fact, he passed on the opportunity to speak Saturday, and on Sunday he was asked about it, and he replied forcefully as a former player and as an owner. He said, he was disgusted and completely outraged. So
to me, the key was when Mark Cuban, who had said before this could be a slippery slope if we did anything, he came out and said he agreed with Silver 100%.
Took him a while, didn't it?
It did.
Because on Saturday, initially, he tweeted, what's going on? Anything in the NBA?
I know. I think he realized that. Yeah.
And I think he also knows, I don't think he wants to be, I don't think he wants the vote to be 28-1.
Right.
I don't think he wants to be that guy.
So Donald Sterling said again yesterday, the Clippers are not for sale. Well, guess what? They may be for sale.
Well, now, there will be litigation. What if the season starts and he's still the owner because it's tied up in the courts?
Yeah.
I mean, this is far from over,
complicated,
I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
But who is the next owner?
Oprah!
She says she wants to put together a little group with David Geffen, Larry Ellison, I mean, any one of the three of them could buy the Clippers
Well, you know, Geffen
outright.
tried to 4 or 5 years ago buy them and was rebuffed by Sterling. Larry Ellison is the guy behind the Oracle America's Cup victory, last year that was so stirring.
Makes $78 million a year, so he's
these are kabillionaires.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's Oprah, and that's a pretty formidable group there that would be interested in buying it.
I must say, Eli Broad, who is a good friend of mine, one of the wealthiest people on the planet, and a great philanthropist and art collector, and has endowed several art museums, including the LA County Museum of Modern Art, and is also an investor in the Bill Press radio show, also said yesterday that he's interested in buying it. So we could sort of indirectly be owners of the Clippers.
Could technically be a Clippers owner.
That's right.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, but so there's a lot of interest in this team.
Oh, yeah. Well, the sports teams don't come up for sale that often. And about 2 weeks ago, the Milwaukee Bucks were sold for, I think it was $550 million.
Whoa.
So, the Clippers have a great coach in place. They have good players. And
Doc
Chris
Rivers
Paul
has really
and Blake Griffin. Yes.
Really risen to the occasion. So is Chris Paul, I think, the head of the Players Association. It's I guess the only bad side of this whole thing, right, is that what did Sterling pay for the team? $12 million or something?
Yeah, $12.5 million.
And he'll sell it for...
he's going to make,
he's going to make a lot of money.
And, the more people who are interested in buying, the more he's going to make. So that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
but
every time I hear him say it's not for sale, it's like the person who says, my house is not for sale, until you offer them the right price.
Well, he loves that, though. He loves that's what makes him a player in L.A. It's not, his real estate holdings. He likes being on the front row. He likes having the ladies around him.
Yeah.
I believe we know. And, I don't think he's going to go gently. I can't imagine that will happen.
Speaking of, I have to, speaking of ladies, right. So the girlfriend, V. Stiviano, she changed her name to Vanessa Stiviano. Is that right?
I think so.
I've been trying to find out. I didn't know that.
I believe it is, yeah.
So yesterday, she came out of a restaurant on La Brea Avenue. There were photographers outside. She had her
big visor.
Had the visor on, of course, with a group of friends around her who are wearing baseball caps with her name on them, V. Stiviano. She's really playing this for all it's worth. And she said yesterday, she told reporters, one day I will become president of the United States and I will change the legislation and laws. Modern day history, civil rights movement.
She might need to take a remedial civics class.
Do you think this maybe is going to her head a little bit?
Maybe. I think she would have to lose the visor to run for president, first of all.
Yeah. I'm not even sure she was born in this country, was she? I don't know, but...
Boy, you're just really...
No, she did.
Oh,
she grew up dirt poor in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay,
but,
all right.
Anyway.
But
I mean, the idea that she's going to be a president of the... I mean...
You know what?
This is so...
God bless. Maybe she will. I just think... it's just such a mess. And for her... Clearly, there's something... I mean, it's obvious there's something going on between her and Sterling's wife because of the lawsuit. Sterling's wife is suing her for almost $2 million once. A couple of Bentleys and a Ferrari and an apartment back.
Yeah.
So.
He gave her $2 million in cash and gifts, including a Ferrari, 2 Bentleys, and a Range Rover, and a $1.8 million house.
Yeah.
And the wife is saying, no, this was community property. He couldn't just give all this stuff away.
He couldn't give my stuff away. Yeah. Well, no takesies, backsies.
You have written that he could be the new Marge Schott.
Maybe.
Or is he?
Well, I mean, Marge Schott was
not yet,
forced to sell the team. She was suspended twice by baseball. I mean, among her comments, she made disparaging comments about, Jews, blacks. I mean, I don't think there was
Hitler wasn't such a bad guy.
He started out well. And then I think that was, it wasn't that she didn't say, she acknowledged that it went badly, and that he was a bad guy, but he started out, which was unfortunate and got her banned for a little while. And then, they pressured her to sell. And I think the difference for her was she drank a lot. I think she didn't care and gave up and didn't love the team anymore and just wanted to be done with it. I don't see Sterling being at that point yet.
Right. Cindy Boren's with us from the Washington Post. Your comments on Donald Sterling. What should happen? Who will be the next owner? Did Adam Silver do the right thing? And when we come back, how about them Wizards? 866-55-PRESS, talking sports on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're going to do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity. And one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him. Because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, Cindy Boren here with us from the Washington Post, talking sports. And boy, is there a lot of sports news. We've been talking about Donald Sterling, Cindy, Cheryl has a quick comment from Virginia Beach.
Virginia Beach.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi.
Hi, what's up?
Yeah, I don't follow basketball. I'm not a big sports fan when it comes to basketball, but this whole situation is angered me severely that this man thinks he has the audacity to think that he has a right to sue over being banned for life. And in this day and age, you know, this racism crap, excuse my language, that he's been spouting off should not be tolerated.
Listen.
And I am very proud of Silver for, you know, standing up.
And doing the right thing. Cheryl, thanks so much for the call. It is disgusting. But
sure, he can sue, you know? I mean, he can tie it up in litigation for as long as he, you know, presumably as long as he wants, as long as he's got the money.
Right. He can sue and he can lose. So how about them Wizards?
How about them Wizards?
Good.
On to the next round. You know, they're playing really well. They've got a good team. They've got fresh legs. They've been evolving all season. They had kind of a rocky start, but, you know, I think they can go to the conference finals. I really do.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're playing well when it's important to play well.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal to play well during the postseason.
Indeed. We don't know who they play the next round,
Not yet,
right?
no.
Yeah. So go Wizards. And the Nats, 7-0 last night.
You know, it's interesting. The Nats have been playing really, really well of late. In the last, 5-6 days since Bryce Harper hurt his thumb. And, you know, they've got all these injuries. They're playing better without the guys that are supposed to be out there.
Just wait till he comes back. How long we can do.
8 weeks.
Oh, it's going to take that long. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it looks like, I mean, the Nats do well as long as they're not playing the Cardinals or the Braves.
Well, there is that. Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, on the sports front, not finally, but I think all we have time for, Jameis Winston in trouble again. Apparently, he really likes crab legs.
Well, who among us hasn't gone to the grocery store and forgotten to pay for one item, right? Well, maybe not. Yeah, me neither. Yeah, he went to the Publix in Florida and forgot to pay for his crab legs.
Forgot.
That's what he says.
Yeah, air quotes.
He's now suspended from the baseball team.
Now suspended from the baseball team. $32.72. I mean, come on, right? You've ruined your career,
I guess he hasn't heard that he can eat all he wants now. Now that the NCAA is letting athletes eat.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Bill.
Is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org. to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
33 minutes after the hour, on a Thursday, May 1. It's The Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and our studio on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building, where, again, Republican senators shut down an attempt to raise the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour to $10.10 an hour. They make $175,000 a year. They make $85 an hour, but they couldn't see it in their hearts to enable people at the lowest end of the scale to make a minimum $10.10 an hour, which would amount to $21,000 a year. Just one of the stories we're covering this morning. We are brought to you this morning by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. We all live better thanks to the good work of the men and women of the Teamsters Union under President Jim Hoffa. And you can find out more about their work, catch up with what they're doing there in the Teamsters at their website, teamster.org, teamster.org. Big news out of the Supreme Court this week, a 6-2 decision upholding EPA and its rules on cross-state pollution, shall we call it. A big victory for the Obama administration. I think a big victory for the American people. Erica Martinson covers energy issues for Politico and joins us in studio this morning. Hi, Erica.
Hi, good morning.
Good to see you. Let me ask you to pull that microphone a little closer to you, right, so you can talk to it close like that. It's a lot better. Now we can hear you better. So, for this Supreme Court, 6-2 is a pretty solid, dramatic statement that they said, EPA's got the right to issue rules on pollution that starts in one state and ends up in another, right?
Absolutely. They, it was a pretty complicated rule that EPA has been trying to get across the finish line for many years now, due to the good neighbor provision in the Clean Air Act. 6-2, Chief Justice Roberts was on the majority side. Alito recused himself for unknown reasons, hence the...
I was wondering why he recused himself. We don't know?
Yeah, Supreme Court can be a little bit of a black box sometimes. They don't ever tell you why.
Total, yeah.
Yeah.
Dissenting, of course, Antonin Scalia and Clarence Thomas, who said this was Marxist, right? This is like communist Russia.
What's funny is actually, what a big part of their problem with the way EPA did the rule was because EPA allowed the states, the upwind states that were polluting and downwind states, to consider cost in when they were deciding which states and where they had to reduce pollution. EPA did it in a way so that lower costs meant that's where you go after the pollution. That also means that states that have waited a lot longer or utilities that have waited to upgrade to cut down pollution, they're the ones that are going to get, settled with the bulk of it. And Scalia didn't like the cost-benefit considerations. He said that EPA was, making their own laws and going beyond the act.
But didn't he contradict himself in an earlier decision? He had said just the opposite, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. He actually had to amend his dissent yesterday, which is pretty rare. And even though he had taken the rare step to actually read the dissent when they issued the ruling, that doesn't happen very often. And in a paragraph of it that was written with quite a bit of flourish. Pardon my French is bad, but basically it was some sort of French line that means, things stay the same as much as they change.
Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose.
There you go. Now that section is just headlined Our Precedent. They had to switch it out because he mistakenly referred to EPA as trying to apply cost-benefit to its air quality standards in a very famous case, Whitman v. American Trucking, when actually it was industry that was trying to force EPA to apply cost-benefit.
Yeah.
And he had written the majority ruling in that case, and I guess misremembered exactly how it went.
Surprise, surprise, Scalia got it wrong. So to come back to this decision, what does it, so the Supreme Court says EPA can do this. Now, what does this mean? What will EPA be doing?
Well, it means that it's going to require a lot of states to force their utilities. It's about 28 states that, mostly in the South and the Midwest, that pollute towards downwind states that are often on the East Coast. And they're going to have to cut their SO2 and NOx emissions. Basically, these are pollution that causes ozone and soot, which are very harmful to human health.
So we're talking greenhouse gases.
No. But it does kind of give the way this ruling went. The ruling that EPA has this sort of very broad ability to fill in the holes of the Clean Air Act where they need to. Bodes well, I think, for EPA's greenhouse gas emission rules, which are due out at the very beginning of June.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, so these these pollutants, it says in the states, the 28 states where the power plants exist, they've got to clean up, put some rules in place to clean up the pollution from the plants in their states, because people like in Delaware or Connecticut or New Jersey or New York or whatever on the East, or Virginia, we're breathing this crap that comes from those states, right?
And a lot of those East Coast states have already required their power plants to clean up a bit more with state laws. And a lot of these Midwestern and Southern states are heavily dependent on much older, dirtier coal-fired power plants. And, they're very coal-dependent in a lot of those states, and coal's a lot dirtier.
So the Obama administration, which has been frustrated in its attempts to get pollution controls or greenhouse gases, more anything out of Congress, they have said, because I go to the briefings and Jay Carney's always telling us, no, we're going to do this by as much as we can through the EPA and through the rules and the regulations. So for the Obama administration, for the Supreme Court to say 6-2, what EPA is doing is okay, this is a big win for them, right?
It is a big win, and it follows a couple of other big wins. Whereas the Bush administration, a lot of EPA error rules were overturned by the courts, one after another, for not being written correctly. One after another, EPA has pulled down wins in appeals court and the Supreme Court, saying that their air pollution rules are, valid, that they can regulate greenhouse gases from power plants, that their mercury and air toxics rule is, that was just upheld a couple of weeks ago in appeals court. And here they overturned the one adverse ruling that EPA had been seeing on this cross-state rule. The Supreme Court said, no, EPA got it right.
Right. So what do we expect next from EPA? I mean, these are existing power plants, correct? What about new power plants? Are they going to allow? We're talking coal too, correct?
Absolutely.
Are we
it's primarily coal is that issue.
So are they going to allow, which is correct me if I'm wrong. It's the dirtiest form of power plant.
Sure, absolutely.
Coal plants.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's cheapest too.
Cheapest and the dirtiest.
Yeah.
I have to tell you. When you drive out of Washington D.C. here, at least from where we live, southeast, and you go out toward the Baltimore-Washington Parkway on 295, the right-hand side, there's just always train cars parked there, full of coal. So right here in Washington D.C., just south of the Capitol, I think that's a coal-burning plant, I believe. So, but my question is, I can't believe we're still burning coal. Are we going to allow construction of any new coal-burning power plants?
Sort of. It depends on who you ask. So EPA has proposed a rule that would allow new coal-fired power plants to be built, but only if they have this carbon capture technology to cut by half the amount of CO2 and greenhouse gases that they put out. And newer plants are able to be built in a way that's much more efficient as far as pollution. Part of the deal is that we have 50, 60, 70-year-old coal-fired power plants that are still in action all across the United States. And those are the ones that haven't been required to upgrade, and they haven't, moved along as, cleanup has advanced over the years. And with another EPA rule that they got victory on in the appeals court a few weeks ago is going to be a big push behind a lot of those plants closing.
So is there such a thing as clean coal?
Well, it depends on your definition of clean.
It's a contradiction. To me, it's a contradiction in terms, really.
Fossil fuels, necessarily have some degree of pollution. Natural gas too. Natural gas is a lot cleaner than coal, but we haven't gotten there yet. And part of it's because a lot of the coal industry has fought tooth and nail against advancing a lot of these power plants, moving the ball forward a little bit. And, I think that there's a lot of folks think that you can get there, that there can be clean coal. At the moment, though, it's much more expensive, and it takes away that cost advantage coal.
So if we are going to build any new plants, then EPA has to come out with rules for governing clean new power plants, right? When are we going to see those?
They're due to be finalized next January.
January 2015.
2015. Yeah.
Right. And with this decision this week by the court sort of gives some more backbone to EPA, meaning make it more likely that whatever new rules they come out with will be upheld?
Well, it's a different part of the Clean Air Act. I think, everything's challenged. Everything goes to court. I think it does bolster them a lot for actually an even more impactful rule. EPA is coming out in June with a greenhouse gas rule for existing power plants. And that's where you get the real cuts. Nobody's really building new coal plants right now, actually. Natural gas is booming. There just aren't really a lot in line. For the next 20 years, we're not going to see many new coal plants. We wouldn't have anyways.
I would hope by that time we'd be finished with coal, but anyhow, go ahead.
Well, so the next rule that EPA is going for, though, is to require our existing fleet of power plants to cut back on their greenhouse gases. And I think that this ruling from the Supreme Court, really bolsters the agency's confidence in their ability to interpret the Clean Air Act in places where it's vague, and also their ability to require sort of interstate mechanisms where one state is it's going to be a very complicated rule, as was this cross-state rule. And I think that this bodes well for their ability to have it upheld in court.
Gina McCarthy, the new director, new administrator, they call, of the EPA, with a big victory for her, for the Obama administration, and I think for the American people. The Koch brothers, their aim is to shut down the EPA, get rid of all environmental regulations. But even the John Roberts Supreme Court says, no, the EPA is doing the right thing. This is very, very important. Impacts every one of us in the direction of our energy policy in this country. 866-55-PRESS is a toll-free number. Erica Martinson with us from Politico. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour, Matt Vasilagambros from the National Journal will be here as a friend of Bill in the next hour, and we'll be joined by Congresswoman Gwen Moore. Looking forward to that at the next hour. And right now visiting with Erica Martinson, who covers energy policy for Politico and energy politics, policy and politics. You can't separate the two for Politico. Erica, good to have you here again.
Thanks.
So do you know the best place in the country to install solar panels on your roof? Residential?
No, I don't. Well, it's so much of it is locally based. A lot of the issue with installing solar panels on your house usually has to do with city regulations.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, Washington, D.C.
Is it? Okay.
happens to be because there are more, by the time you add up the federal and the local tax credits for putting solar panels on your roof, it's the best deal in the country, in the entire country. And we did it about 6 months ago. And our power bill has shot down dramatically. And this week, just yesterday, Carol showed me a letter from Pepco, our provider here, utility, that gives us the option of telling Pepco from now on we want all the power that we get from them, because we still get some power from them. Eventually, maybe we'll be totally off the grid, but not yet. But that all the power we would get will come from solar and wind. We have that option. Doesn't cost us anything. They don't have to install any new equipment on our house at all. It's just the electricity we buy from them is powered by wind and solar. So my question then to you is, President Obama's policy is on energy, all of the above. You know, we're for coal, we're for nukes, we're for wind, we're for sun, we're for, geothermal, we're for fracking, like for everything. If more and more people say they want all their energy from wind and solar, why are we going to build any more either coal plants or nuclear plants?
Well, part of the reason is that baseload power is really important to keeping things going all the time. Wind and solar can be intermittent. They don't work all the time and don't, at this point, provide enough power to keep things going.
Right. Demand and supply. If more people demand energy from wind and solar, like us, right, who just check it off and send it back in, then they're going to have to build more solar plants, right?
Well,
and
absolutely,
more
and I think that they're
going
to keep building more. Now, it's such a small percentage of overall, and nobody really is building any new coal plants at the moment. I will say that, and where all the new construction is going right now is to wind and solar. That's where most of our new power is coming from at the moment.
Any more nukes on the horizon?
I know there's a plant in Georgia in the works, but
that's about the only one that I know
slow.
of.
Yeah. And it's hard to tell at the moment. There's some concerns that some really much larger nuclear plants might be headed out of business pretty soon. They're much more expensive because they have to stay on all the time. They are zero carbon emissions, though, so that's where the difficulty is for the Obama administration.
But you're talking about existing plants that they're just getting too old and may shut down. Is that right?
Partially getting too old. Sometimes they're facing tough new environmental regulations. It depends on how a few more things shake out. It gets pretty complicated, too, with the way different markets work. It's different in every state and different regions, and because of the way that they have to buy in or be running all the time and can't power up and power down and be flexible, sometimes they're not competitive cost-wise.
All right, finally, what's President Obama going to do about the Keystone Pipeline?
Oh, if it's $1 million question.
Right. This is your beat. You're the energy reporter
it has been for years and years.
For Politico.
Well, if you had polled energy reporters about a year ago, everyone would have probably said that he was going to make a decision last summer and that he was going to allow the pipeline to go forward. That didn't happen. And it's starting to look more and more like he might not approve it. They put off the decision again until next year while the state of Nebraska finishes some court issues.
They haven't said until when, but they did put it off. Right, yeah.
Probably at least 2015 before Nebraska gets its legal stuff in order. He's, John Kerry is a pretty strong proponent of working on climate change issues, and John Podesta just came over to the White House, and he's been very publicly against the Keystone Pipeline.
So you think the president will say no?
Perhaps, yeah. The writing's leaning on the wall. I mean, it's tough because most of the pipeline's already built. There's a lot of money in it, but...
Well, it keeps you busy covering this stuff. Erica, thank you. Good job, and thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
See you again. I'll be back to tell you what the president's got on his schedule today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, we're just getting warmed up, folks. I know 2 hours almost done, and hour number 3 coming up. We're going to lose our good friends on Free Speech TV, but not entirely, because you can just jump over, and we invite you to jump over to our worldwide video stream at TawkrTV. Easy to find. Just go to youtube.com/Tawkr, TAWKR-TV, and stay with us for Congresswoman Gwen Moore to talk about yesterday's vote on the minimum wage. And also Matt Vasilagambros from the National Journal here is a friend of Bill. Hour number 3 coming up.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the next hour, Matt Vasilagambros here from the National Journal as a friend of Bill, and then we'll be joined by Congresswoman Gwen Moore. Looking forward to that. President Obama at the White House today after he gets the briefing this morning, meetings with senior advisors, all behind closed doors. Then he and the vice president have their weekly lunch. They've both been out of town. It's the first time they've had lunch in a couple of weeks. And then this afternoon, this is always a big event at the White House, the president honors the 2014 National Teacher of the Year in the East Room this afternoon. Our briefing a little earlier today at 11:30 with Jay Carney. Back for hour number 3.
This is the Bill Press Show.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC. or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, "We come to work." That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption. They lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts, and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got. A lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance rate through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's gonna hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
$754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old. And I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for.
I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. Not gonna let Detroit be erased, bulldozed or whatever. We're gonna fight to the bitter end. Detroit gonna survive.
broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Republicans wouldn't even allow a vote, wouldn't even allow debate on the minimum wage. No, I figured it out this morning, $85 an hour. They don't want anybody making $10.10 an hour. Man, heartless bastards. Good morning, everybody. I don't feel strongly about that issue. Good to see you this morning. Thank you for joining us on the Bill Press Show this Thursday morning, May 1st. It's the Bill Press Show. We're coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., booming out to you all across this great land of ours on your local progressive talk radio station. Thanks for being there and supporting your local station. How lucky you are if you've got one. And we're coming to you worldwide on our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKR-TV. A couple of people ask why I'm wearing a jacket today, not just a shirt or a little sweater or something. Well, it's because I wanted to look good for the UK today. I mean, or Switzerland or wherever. I don't know. Wherever you're watching, good to have you with us today. And it's good to have in the studio with us an all-around political reporter for the National Journal, a good friend of the program, Matt Vasilagambros, here as a friend of Bill for this hour. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you.
Hey, good to see you.
Everything good?
Yeah, everything's going well.
You're excited about the big White House Correspondents' Dinner this weekend?
Gosh, I can't wait. We were just talking about crashing some parties, so I think that's on our agenda.
That's the only way to go.
That's the only way to go.
I had the most fun 5 years. My first 5 years in Washington, D.C., the biggest party was the Bloomberg party.
Okay.
And I crashed it every one of those 5 years.
I have an email right now with a bunch of parties that are easily crashable, apparently. So those might be, we might do that.
It takes all the fun out of it when you're invited.
Oh, I know. Who wants to do that? Actually, show the invitation now from 2012. So.
You could do that too, right?
Yeah.
So we've got a lot to talk about this hour, but I understand senators are a little removed from everyday life, let's say. So Barbara Boxer made a mistake day before last. She actually referred to 50 Cent as a musical group, as a band.
Yeah.
Well, it did not escape the attention of Conan O'Brien, who though pointed out that what Barbara's mistake is still better than what Republican senators call him.
Yesterday, this is strange, Democratic Senator Barbara Boxer mistakenly called 50 Cent a singing group. Meanwhile, Republican senators called 50 Cent a fair hourly wage.
That's awesome.
All right. They would have taken it from $7.25 an hour down to 50 cents.
Yeah, exactly. That's really great.
Yeah, sort of sums up what they're all about.
Oh, my gosh.
So Matt Vasilagambros here with us. And then we have Congresswoman Gwen Moore from Wisconsin coming up. And we'll get right to everything. But first...
This is the Full Court Press.
You know where this is where Peter usually comes up with 3 wild stories of the day. I'm doing a sort of a shortened version of the Full Court Press this while he's gone. Just one off the wall story, but this really caught my attention. With all the talk about Donald Sterling, there hasn't been as much attention paid to the girlfriend, V. Stiviano. Who the hell is she, and what's that all about? We're finding out more. She changed her name. Her name used to be Maria Vanessa Perez. She changed her name to V, which we think stands for Vanessa Stiviano. She is enjoying the moment. This is a story. She was out for dinner last night with a group of friends at a restaurant on La Brea Avenue, a whole restaurant row in Los Angeles. And she came out. Photographers were standing outside. So she had her trademark visor on. All of her friends had baseball caps with her name on them.
V. Stiviano.
V. Stiviano.
Right, yeah.
So she's got her fan club now. She's enjoying her 15 minutes.
Are you going to buy your hat? Or?
And she told photographers that she's got big plans. Eventually, she says she is going to lead the free world. Quote, "One day I will become president of the United States of America, and I will change the legislation and the laws." There it is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So you were wondering, the 2016, whether it's going to be Ted Cruz or Rand Paul or Marco Rubio. V. Stiviano, there she is.
I can't wait to vote for her.
V. Stiviano versus Hillary Clinton.
Bill, I don't know if she can be president, but maybe she has a job in the NSA.
Oh, yeah.
With all the wire.
Secret recordings and everything. Yeah.
By the way, so Sterling gave her $2 million in cash and gifts, including a Ferrari, 2 Bentleys, and a Range Rover. I mean, what do you do with those 4 cars in your garage? I mean, it's tough. Well, which one do I drive?
3 Bentleys would have been excessive, so.
Yeah. And a $1.8 million home.
Oh.
So no wonder Sterling's wife, who still defends him, is suing her, saying this was community property and she had no right to this stuff. What a zoo.
Oh my gosh.
But so she actually thinks she's going to be president of the United States someday. It says it all about her.
Oh boy.
All right, here we go. 12 minutes now after the hour. Matt, you've been doing some following some very unusual stories lately. With all the talk, first of all, about voting rights and effort to suppress the vote in this country.
Right.
You look at what's happening in other countries sometimes, and you say maybe we could learn something from other people.
A little bit, yeah. So I recently wrote a story about there's an election happening in India, and they have 800
right now.
Right now, it's they don't vote on one day; they vote over a series of days because there are over 1 billion people there and over 815 million registered voters. Think
Whoa.
about that. Yeah, so there are
815 million
registered voters.
And what are we, 370 million people
total?
total?
Just over 300 million people total. Right.
Not
Then there are like
registered
200 registered or 200 eligible voters in this country. 200 million eligible. So 815 million registered voters, and they have to get all those people to vote in India, which is like
a huge country.
Huge country, mountain ranges and valleys and Himalayas to the south, jungles, and it's an incredible huge country, and they have to get everyone out there to vote. And so it's like this vast process. There's corruption, but they've it's a dangerous region. They have to close the borders.
Mm-hmm.
They have some insurrections. There's always Maoist groups that are trying to make a rise.
So the election is extended over
like a month, basically. So they started in mid-April, and they're going until I believe it's May 16th or something to that matter. But it's still going on right now. And so some days they have 200 million people voting, others they have 17 million people voting. Just incredible. And each one of those people have identification cards to go vote.
Are they required to vote? In other words, could they choose not to vote?
They're not required to vote. There is some stories out there about how...
In Australia,
it's
are
required to vote.
It's required to vote, yeah.
They've actually pretty high turnout, even though it's not a requirement to go vote and everything.
In India,
and it's very. It's a simple system, but it works. I mean, they have just one electronic machine, and they go parties by parties, and each party has a symbol because a lot of the population is illiterate.
Mm-hmm.
So the main parties is a lotus, and the other party is a hand, and so people are marking their votes, and after they vote, to make sure that they're not doing it again, they mark the finger with a little ink, and. It's an efficient system, and they're getting hundreds of millions of people out there to vote. So it's just incredible to me that that's happening, and that it's sometimes seen as a burden in this country, with so many people voting. But think about the largest democracy in the world is currently voting for their next prime minister.
What gets me is we're just going in the opposite direction here, right? With the blessing of the Supreme Court, not all states, but state after state, some 24 states last year, they're looking at, instead of extending the period where people can vote, they're making it shorter. For a lot of states, it's still 1 day.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a month? No, 1 day. It's got to be that 1 day between those certain hours of that 1 day.
Right.
Or maybe if it's early voting, they'll have it for a little bit, but they're shortening the period, taking weekends away.
Yeah,
which is when most people could vote, and don't have to worry about getting off work or out of school or something to vote. So to take the weekends away, require maybe not just a photo ID, but a birth certificate or whatever, marriage license, or God knows what.
Like
I mean, so it looks like we're trying to think out ways to prevent people from voting or make it tougher to vote. Whereas all around the world,
they're trying.
Other countries are saying, "How can we improve our systems so that we can get more people to vote?"
Yeah, and that's what India did. I mean, they extended the voting period, and they're allowing as many people as you can. And like you said, parties in this country are trying to suppress it because it's more politically wise to do so. And I just think it's a lesson to be learned.
It is a lesson to be learned. I'm glad you wrote that. I was very interested in that. I mean, because look, our most basic right, and the way most people, they can't write a political check, right? They can't even get involved in a campaign. They don't have the time. They can't run for office. They can't serve in office, but they can vote.
Right.
That's the one way all of us participate as citizens, and to make it more and more difficult, I think, is fundamentally un-American. Some people may be surprised at, again, unless they follow you assiduously like we do, is that members of Congress are actually getting porn in their mailboxes.
They sure are. Yeah. You heard that right on the Bill Press Show. Yeah.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. Here we are. How so?
Okay.
Well, first of all, it's hard to get anything into since 9/11 and since the anthrax scare, right? It's hard to get any letter into Congress, but they're managing to get their daily porn or weekly or monthly, whatever it is.
Yeah, their monthly porn. So what happens is every month since 1983, Larry Flynt of Hustler sends each member of Congress, all 535, a monthly subscription of his magazine. And what happens, though, they can't really screen it because it comes in a plain manila envelope. So then some poor intern is shuffling through the mail and then grabs this manila envelope with no markings on it, opens it up, and holy cow, there's a Hustler right in front of him. So, and this is not to say that members of Congress haven't tried to stop this. There was a big court hearing about this, and basically this is Larry Flynt's right to petition the government as they saw it. And in the decision, the justice at the time said, "We doubt that any member of Congress lacks wastebaskets." So it's Larry Flynt's right for the last 30 years. It's going to continue going. And I talked to some of my friends on the Hill.
I wanted to ask you, what kind of research did you do to write this story? You were snooping around the mailroom.
No, when I first came to Washington, when I was in college, I was a Hill intern, and I was one of those poor interns that the staffers made open up the mail. So it was always a story that I had back in my mind. It was recess, so I thought this is like the best time to write one of these fluff pieces. So so I talked to some people on the Hill, some staffers, and to quote them anonymously, of what they used to do to the interns. And it's great stories of, I forgot to tell them that there's going to be a package coming, or we gathered this one person, they gathered all the Hustlers for a year, gave it as a Secret Santa gift to the staffer, who then sent it to her boyfriend serving in Iraq. And what they said is one of the ways our office is supporting our troops. So it's publicly Congress people will probably say this is inappropriate, but privately everyone's having a little fun with it.
All right. Did you open one of these secret brown manila envelopes when you were an intern?
Yeah, it scared the hell out of me. Because think about it, I'm in Longworth, and you're opening this up, and you're getting all this constituent mail, and here's this porn, and obviously, I'm sorry, Mom, but so so then you're kind of shocked that it's actually there.
But you didn't hand it to your member of Congress?
No, I'm sure he knows it existed, but I worked for a.
I'm telling you, you heard it here first. Heard it here first on the Bill Press Show. Thanks to Vasilagambros. Porn in Congress, yes, indeed. I'm sure it's not the only porn floating around that Congress as well. 19 minutes after the hour. Your calls, your questions, your comments. Join the conversation anytime. Again, Congresswoman Gwen Moore coming in at the half hour. And lots more going on here. Not a lot in Washington, D.C., but whatever it is, we got it covered. We'll talk about it when we come back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Aww. You should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork. Loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. you could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making home affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Covering the waterfront here in Washington, D.C. at 24 minutes after the hour, Thursday, May 1, with Matt Vasilagambros here from the National Journal. It's nationaljournal.com, where you can follow Matt's work and all of our Matt's work, and for what it's worth, and all of our good friends over there. One more story that caught our attention, Matt. Thanks for bringing all this good stuff in. Your headline is, Americans want to save more money. They just can't.
They can't.
Why not?
So this was a Gallup poll that said, there's been a change since 2007, since the recession, where Americans mostly wanted to spend money when they got it instead of, say, putting it to the side, and then it kind of expanded where more Americans wanted to save their money. So right now it's something like 62% of Americans say they want to save their money, but our savings rate in this country is incredibly low.
Oh yeah,
and the problem is they can't save money because of a lot of economic insecurity, home prices, lowering wages. And economic inequality. So there's so many issues at play that Americans they want to save that cash that they're earning right now, but they have no choice but to spend it. So
there is no incentive today to save. Right. You get 1% if you're lucky, right? or buying a CD or kind of whatever. So you might as well spend it.
You might as well spend. That's what they're saying. Yeah, and right now, I mean,
spend it, enjoy it. Right?
Even if you think about
go to Vegas. That's why Peter went to New Orleans. Yeah,
did he really?
That's why.
Oh,
he
yeah.
just said, has some extra money. Why save it? Might as well blow it in New Orleans.
You are paying him way too much money.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah.
We'll tell him that as soon as he gets back. But it could be a long time before this changes, right?
Yeah, it really could. And so, I mean, if we're talking about like the minimum wage debate, I mean, this fits right into it. You know, these people, these Americans who are making minimum wage right now, they're making enough basically to get by, maybe not. There's really no room to save it. If you want to talk about people saving so their kids could go to college, or even young Americans right now if they want to buy a home, most of the statistics out there say that most so-called millennials are renting right now. You know, the idea of home ownership is way beyond the pale, you know. So it kind of plays in this whole debate that we're having right now. There's just not enough money to put to the side.
So as a former intern in the House of Representatives, you must have followed with some interest the saga of Vance McAllister, from the kissing congressman.
Kissing congressman.
They call him, who this week announced borrowing a line from your colleague Sung Min Kim.
Oh, no, she's at Politico.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. She's at Politico, sorry. But it was her line the other day that the kissing congressman has kissed Congress goodbye, which I loved. Awesome. But here's like so Congressman Grimm up in Long Island, he's indicted on all kinds of serious money charges.
This is weird to me, yeah.
Yeah. So, but Republicans are saying McAllister has to quit now, but Grimm gets to stay and defend himself.
I didn't understand that from Cantor. Yeah.
Why? Why the distinction between the two? And isn't what Grimm did more serious than what McAllister did?
I mean, not to play it lightly, but if you're talking about these Christian values, Vance McAllister went against it. You know, so that's a big Republican no-no. If you're talking about skimming a little on taxes, maybe that's not the biggest issue for some in the leadership. But it's both really serious. I don't understand why it's being treated differently, though.
No, I don't either. It's just stunning to me that cheating on your business taxes and not paying your business taxes and lying to the IRS would be sort of acceptable.
That's unbelievable.
But kissing your intern is not.
Right.
I mean, both of them unacceptable. Both of them ought to go. Congresswoman Gwen Moore next.
Is the Bill Press Show.
So this is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing down, I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 33 minutes after the hour now. It's Thursday, May 1. The Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital and our studio right here on Capitol Hill. Brought to you today by AFSCME, the good men and women of AFSCME, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country, under President Lee Saunders, doing great work across the country, including the state of Wisconsin.
Born in Wisconsin.
You got it right. They were indeed. We want to let you know you can find out more about their good work at their website, afscme.org, AFSCME.org. Born in Wisconsin and representing the 4th District of Wisconsin in the United States Congress, Congresswoman Gwen Moore. Great to see you, Congresswoman.
It is so wonderful being with you again. It's been a few years.
I know it has.
Glad
yeah.
you got back to me in your Rolodex.
Oh, no. Anytime. And you know, one thing nice about being this close, right here, close to the Capitol, is people just stop by on your way to work, you know. Stop by, have a cup of coffee with us every morning.
I'll take you up on that.
All right. And Matt Vasilagambros is here from the National Journal, as we call him a friend of Bill here for this hour, Congresswoman. So let me ask you, the big news is, and we have all of our listeners out at 92.1, the mic in Madison, one of our great affiliates out there. Are we going to get rid of Scott Walker?
You know what? This is my passion, my burning desire. I think we have a really good shot at this. For a guy,
great candidate,
right? We got a great candidate, and for a guy whose bragging rights are that he's won 2 elections in 4 years, he's never been able to top 48%. He's underwater, and the latest poll shows he's about 48, 42, basically unknown candidate. We haven't really, introduced Mary Burke yet to folks. She hasn't started any commercials and big mailings, and yet, the desire to have someone new is really, really present. And so we think, it was one thing to sort of piss off organized labor, but Scott Walker has gone on to piss off everyone. I mean, we've got the transvaginal probe. And
I thought that was in Virginia. No,
that's in Wisconsin as well. He cut, hundreds of millions of dollars out of K-12 education, out of technical college education, our flagship University of Wisconsin system. So it wasn't enough to just deep six the teachers. You had to pull the money out of schools. He's this voucher program. He spread it statewide, and some people aren't happy about that. He didn't take the Medicaid money. I mean, 100% payment. The hospitals aren't happy about that, much less poor folk. And I could just go on. And economic development to 250,000 jobs, not even close. Turned down $800 million for the train, and this guy is he's very vulnerable.
Wisconsin deserves, with the proud tradition of Wisconsin, deserves a lot better, right, than a Scott Walker. I mean, the progressive movement started, in the state of Wisconsin. So I didn't realize he's one of the governors. And Matt, I don't understand this with Medicaid, right? John Kasich, Republican, had enough sense to say, if the federal government's going to give me 100% and pay for 100% to have my poorest of citizens who need Medicaid get it, right? Damn right I'm going to sign up for that program because it makes all kinds of sense. I didn't realize Scott Walker was one of the governors who turned it down.
Oh, absolutely. Totally ideological. I'd like to hear from Matt. I mean, what do you think of that?
Well, I mean, I don't have an opinion on them.
He's a reporter, but
you don't have an opinion. Well, here's the thing. I served on the Joint Committee on Finance when I was in the state legislature. Right now, the formula in Wisconsin for Medicaid is that it's a 60-40 formula. Feds pay 60 cents on a dollar, and the state kicks in 40 cents.
Yeah.
So he's got a 60-40 formula instead of the 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And even after 3 years, when the Fed share is reduced to only 90 cents.
90 cents, yeah.
Come on now.
It's still a better deal than today, 60-40.
I mean, come on, let's get, are you smarter than a fourth grader, a third grader, whatever the program is?
Yeah, basic math would tell you that. There's so much to talk about. Matt and I were talking a little bit earlier, Congresswoman, about the vote on the minimum wage yesterday in the Senate. So I did a little math this morning, right? Members of the Senate make $175,000 a year. That's $85.13 an hour.
To do nothing.
Amen, right, to do nothing. And they're faced with a choice about raising the minimum wage for your lowest scale worker from $7.25 an hour to $10.10 an hour, which would enable them to make $21,000 a year. And these $175,000 senators won't even give the minimum wage people that. I mean, it's just cruel.
Well, really, some of the talk behind the scenes, and not so much behind the scenes, is that you really have chambers of commerce and businesses saying that they don't have any problem with raising the minimum wage. Because think about it, the biggest part of our economy is consumption. 70% of our economy are consumers. So you see so many businesses with trillions of dollars on the side because there's not demand. Someone making $15,000 a year on a minimum wage cannot afford to go to Best Buy and buy stuff. People will shop when they have money. They can't afford to go out and have pizza night with their kids. They're not consuming. And that is the big problem. If you raise the minimum wage, people will instantly start putting it back into the economy.
You just made that point in our last segment, right? This gets to your point about savings.
It does. I mean, there's not enough money out there for these for most Americans to even put slight, amounts of savings to the side. They want to save some money. They also do want to spend and make it, but they're not making enough money to even do so. I wanted to ask the Congresswoman, during this whole debate, there have been a few members who have gone off topic and say, Americans don't make enough with the minimum wage. Neither do members of Congress. I don't want to change the subject too much, but I have heard some members say that members should have a raise. I was wondering if you're on the same mindset.
Retiring members who have said that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
It was,
I doubt people who are running for re-election are going to say that.
Well, just let me say this. All members are not equal. Many members are very wealthy. They're millionaires. And I consider it a real privilege to serve. One of the shocking things about serving that I found is that I get a $3,000 a year deduction for my expenses. So while I pay a couple $1,000s a month for rent, I don't sleep on my couch and in my office like some members do. while I pay $25,000, that comes right off the top of my salary. So I have to maintain an apartment here and one at home, and I am a person that I don't have any means, and so that is and that is the price that I pay for the privilege of serving.
But there are also not all members are equal. You're absolutely right. Not all members put in a full day's work either, to be honest, Congresswoman. Right? I know you do, and I know,
it's exhausting doing nothing. It really is. And I think, my days often are 14, 15-hour days. That's a typical day. It's a day that you have to travel. And then when we go back to our districts, we show up on Saturdays, Sundays. I think that most members get a really bad rap. Typically I work, 7 days a week. And sometimes I just scream uncle when it's the third and fourth week in a row when I have had no days off.
There is probably a misconception that recess is a time of vacation. It's a time of going back to the district, actually meeting the constituents that you represent.
You're talking about the third or fourth day in a row, and also the third or fourth event.
No, third or fourth week in a row with no break whatsoever.
No break. And then 3 or 4 events at least in a day, right? Or an evening that you've got to get to.
And, it's helpful when you really like to meet your constituents. I mean, I really like people, but the reality is that it's exhausting.
Now, so the minimum wage didn't even get to the floor. Won't even get to the floor unless some Republicans change their mind. But the Senate was able to get together and vote to extend unemployment insurance for long-term unemployed, and it's over in the House right now. Where does it sit?
Once again, people can be stuck on stupid, waiting on dumb to come if they want to. Unemployment insurance it's money that the economy is being deprived of. These folks are long-term unemployed for a variety of reasons. Again, businesses are not hiring because they don't have the demand. When they don't have the demand, there aren't jobs. I know one of my senators in my state, Senator Johnson, says that it's because people are basically gaming the system and they don't want to work and it creates a disincentive when you provide unemployment insurance. But that is absolutely not the case. I've got so many stories in my district, people who have been unemployed and they have, they're 50 years old. And so it's not easy to
and they're out there trying to get a job.
And they're out trying to get a job.
Right. Yeah. And if Speaker Boehner were to bring that to a vote, is there any doubt in your mind that
There's no doubt in my mind that it would pass. But they've got
with Republican votes.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. And there it is. Same thing with
because unemployment is just not partisan. They're unemployed Republicans.
Believe it or not, there are some unemployed Republicans, and there are people working on the minimum wage, and would love to see a minimum wage increase in the red states too, right, Congresswoman? Right. Congresswoman Gwen Moore from the 4th District of Wisconsin here in the studio with us, and Matt Vasilagambros from the National Journal. We'll be right back. Your calls, your questions, your comments. You don't often get to ask a question of a member of Congress, but you do now if you want. 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
12 minutes ago, before the top of the hour, here we are with Matt Vasilagambros from the National Journal, and the honor to be joined by the Congresswoman from the 4th District of Wisconsin, Congresswoman Gwen Moore. Congresswoman Barbara Lee, your colleague, was here in studio with us yesterday. And when the news broke that Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has said he's going to review the rules and regulations regarding hairstyles of African-American women in the military. There's an op-ed about it in the New York Times this morning. This all happened because of a letter that you and your female colleagues in the Black Caucus, Congressional Black Caucus, signed and sent to the Defense Secretary. What's this all about? Why is it important?
You know, hair has always been a sensitive issue with women of any color or creed. Yeah. But in the black community, there's always this notion of good hair and bad hair. And I think for many, many years, African Americans have gone out of their way to try to have hairstyles that emulate European hair, and it's a pain. And it's a pain to do, and it is so easy, you know, and as busy as we are, mm-hmm. and people in the military, it is hard to maintain a European style hairdo. Well, why should you have to? It's so much easier to twist it or to lock it, like my hair is twisted, and it's so it's just get up. Get in the shower. This is what every woman, no matter what race she is, wants. She wants a hairdo where she can get up and go. Mm-hmm. Whether it's to grab it up in a ponytail, get out of the shower and keep moving. And so when you start talking about the inability to twist your hair, you start messing in black women's hair. Our hair is already twisted, and so we twist it a little bit more so that it's manageable.
Yeah. So don't make you untwist it. Yeah.
That's right. Don't get it. Don't get this twisted. This is our hair.
current rules ban things like cornrows, braids, twist, or dreadlocks. Well, at least the secretary, he responded, which is good news. He's going to review all the regulations
right away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So good for you raising that issue.
Yeah, that was a very interesting issue. I mean, I saw that come up a little while ago, and there was a lot of outrage out there, especially in the black community. So
the other thing you've been talking
about,
and
we've been tortured with this for years. Because, you know, women in the corporate world, you know, couldn't wear their hair twisted or locked. And I mean, can you imagine just getting up every day trying to straighten your hair? I can tell you, my hairdresser, who every 2 weeks straightened my hair, saw me the other week and said that my hair twisted the way I have it now is the best hairstyle I've ever had.
All right.
White women, they fix their hair in ways where they can just get up and go. And twisting doesn't do that for them, but whatever way works for a woman to be able to get up and move, we need to be left alone.
Absolutely. Matt.
So there's been another issue that we were talking about over the break, and it's something that a lot of people don't realize is happening, especially in this country, is sex trafficking. And I understand that you have a bill coming out soon talking about this issue that happens could be happening in your hometown in middle America. It's a surprising issue. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Couple of things. We had this huge story yesterday about these young women in Nigeria captured, kidnapped, perhaps sold off into human trafficking. And people think that, that only happens over there. But unfortunately, Milwaukee, Wisconsin is so shocking, is a feeder city for places like Las Vegas. And you mentioned Iowa. We have 100,000 girls sold into human trafficking, sex slavery, a year in this country. And the thing that's so pernicious about this is that unlike drugs or some other stolen commodity, jewels or something, you can sell human beings over and over and over and over and over again. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And what my bill does, and it's a bipartisan bill with Representative Paulson, is to provide safe harbors for these girls. They're not even women. They're 12 to 14 years old that are sold into sex trafficking. To instead of treating them like criminals, like prostitutes who get fingerprinted and thrown in jail, to give them a safe harbor so that they, in fact, can be treated like the victims that they are. And given some opportunities through Job Corps and other resources to get their lives together.
I had no idea that problem existed in this country. I don't think most people do, Congresswoman. So you're out in front on that issue, fighting the good fight like you are on so many issues. Thank you for all your good work. Thanks for coming in this morning. And now you know where we are. We'll see you again soon, I hope.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right. Congresswoman Gwen Moore.
Nice to meet you too, Matt.
Matt Vasilagambros. I'll be back with a quick parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
It is possible to read the history of this country as one long struggle to extend the liberties established in our Constitution to everyone in America. In other words, who, according to our laws and culture, gets to be considered a person? The law creates legal personhood, and movements create law and change culture. So, how have the courts passed laws to shape our culture? That history goes way back before Citizens United. 1819, Dartmouth College versus Woodward, Supreme Court case, turned a corporate charter from a government-granted charter to a contract. This ruling gave corporations standing within the Constitution. 1886, Santa Clara County versus Southern Pacific Railroad. Though the court did not rule on corporate personhood, the decision was subsequently cited as a precedent to hold that a private corporation is entitled to the same 14th Amendment rights of due process and equal protection as human beings. This makes it impossible for us to make laws that treat local businesses any differently than giant multinational corporations, even if their business practices are deemed to be harmful to workers, the environment and communities, or if they have a history of violating the law. Hale versus Henkel, 1906. The court granted corporations the Fourth Amendment search and seizure protection. Dodge versus Ford Motor Company, 1919. The Michigan Supreme Court says the business corporation is organized and carried on primarily for the profit of the stockholders. Stockholder primacy is established. The purpose of the corporation, according to the court, is no longer to serve the public good, as it had been. It is now to maximize profit for shareholders above all else. Pennsylvania Coal Company versus Mahon, 1922. Corporations get the Fifth Amendment takings clause, meaning If you pass a regulation that impacts a corporation's ability to make a profit, that is deemed a taking, and they can sue for the right to future profits lost. This creates a chilling effect, and local and state governments become much more hesitant to pass laws in the public interest for fear that corporations can claim loss of potential profits that cities and states will be on the hook to pay. Buckley versus Vallejo, 1976. The Supreme Court rules that spending money to influence elections is protected under the First Amendment, in effect saying that money is speech. Citizens United versus Federal Election Commission, 2010.
Today, the Supreme Court of Chief Justice John Roberts declared that because of the alchemy of its 19th century predecessors in deciding that corporations had all the rights of people, any restrictions on how these corporate beings spend their money on political advertising are unconstitutional.
The court's ruling threatens to undermine the integrity of elected institutions across the nation. It's a rejection of the common sense of the American people.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, we've heard about all the reports of that botched execution out in Oklahoma, and Governor Mary Fallin, who ordered that back-to-back executions in the first place, has now called for a complete investigation of what happened. Look, you don't need an investigation to know what went wrong. I mean, what went wrong was not just the 3 untested drugs, not just Oklahoma. What's wrong is the death penalty itself. That's why 141 different countries and 18 states have already banned the death penalty. It's wrong because it's never applied the same way anywhere in any 2 states. It's wrong because it's disproportionately used against racial minorities. And it's wrong because it's so final. Once you make a mistake, and they've made a lot of them, you can never correct them, no matter how you slice it. The death penalty is a cruel and unusual punishment. It's time for the United States to join the civilized world and ban it completely. Any form of death penalty once and for all. That's it for today, folks. Have a great Thursday. Come back and see us again tomorrow. Wrap it up Friday morning.
This is the Bill Press Show.